All right. Good evening, Dito. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, Anton.
Yeah, we have a very special show today. This is our 10th episode of Tuesdays with Dr. J-Lo. And tonight, we're talking about COVID-19, how to defend and fight on
And
the
fine.
first
Yes.
day of MECQ. And we're also giving away the for a glucose meter. Maybe can you share with us why it's the most accurate glucose meter in the market today?
Okay, so just to tell everyone that the GD40 is for us state of the art glucometer because it has the most important feature of the hematocrit ranges. This means that it can be used by a wide range of users. So different patient types have different hematocrit levels, which affects the glucose measurement in glucometers. So with the GD40's wide hematocrit range, you are sure that the measurement is accurate regardless of patient type. So
Yes.
there. So
And
we're
we're
giving
giving
away
away.
correct. Please. So we're giving away a GD40 at the end of the show to those who are will leave comments on the chat box saying that why they need the GD40 and why it is the best glucometer in the market. So we're giving that away at the end of the show.
All right.
Thanks.
So kailangan lang nila mag-comment, no? During
Yes, correct.
this actual live stream.
Correct, correct. Or actually, even if we can select from the ones who aren't on the live, but we'll just send them back a message. Maybe we can do that too.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So if you have family and friends who wants to listen to this very special episode on COVID-19, tune in to Tuesdays with Dr. JLo. All right. Dito, good evening, Dr. JLo.
Good
Good
evening, good
evening,
evening, Doc.
you guys. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, Doc, are you ready for this topic? Very timely.
Uh, Kinda.
Very
And we'll answer all the question. Dr. JLo will answer all the question related to COVID-19.
And if
yeah.
anyone in the audience can or has something to contribute, maybe they could speak up, right? Can we do that?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Please feel free to join our discussion. So, as usual, we'll start off with a short presentation from Dr. JLo, and then we'll open a Q&A. I actually have a lot of questions. I'm sure you, Dito, has a lot of questions also. So let's start. Maybe you can share screen, Doc. All right.
Yeah, so before we begin, I'll be discussing just the basics of the immune system. So basically, our immune system is is the mechanism that we use to fight off against not just infections but also toxins as well as tumors. So among the infections that we fight against include bacteria, viruses, fungus, parasites, and what other germs? Yeah, so primarily all of those. And then it's basically divided into innate immunity and adaptive immunity. So innate immunity is something that we're born with, and it consists primarily of physical barriers, including the epithelium and mucous membranes, as well as chemicals in the body, such as those found in your digestive enzymes, the stomach, as well as your tears. And then it also consists of something called a complement system, and then other cells, including neutrophils or polymorphonucleotides and antigen-presenting cells, and that includes natural killer cells and macrophages. And then the adaptive immunity is something that develops after birth, and it's a more of a delayed response, and it's primarily um, uh, headed by the lymphocytes, which are further divided into T cells and B cells. And of course, the T cells are subdivided further into cytotoxic and helper cells. And the B cells are the cells that actually produce antibodies. So this is just a comparison between innate versus adaptive immunity. And so we begin first with the 10 basic principles for building immune health. Because when people think about immune health, they just think about supplements to take, but there's more to taking supplements when you talk about improving your immune system. So they consist of the following. So initially, or first off, with creating a commensal-friendly environment. Secondly, maintaining appropriate hygiene practices. Third, avoiding antigens and allergens, especially during adulthood. Fourth, building micronutrient and antioxidant reserve. Then maintaining and building cellular energy. Then there's maintaining adequate detoxification capacity, diminishing stress and cortisol-induced immune suppression, reducing chronic inflammatory triggers or mediators, then using immune modulating agents to create balance and strengthen immune function, and finally maintaining and protecting barrier functions.
So, Doc Joel,
Yeah.
is there the most important among the 10, or are they all balanced
Yeah,
in importance?
they're all equally important. If something is amiss, then it could actually affect how the whole system functions. Yeah, and if you want to have superior immune health, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to all these things. So let's start with maintaining and protecting barrier functions. So most immune cells are found within specialized mucosal membranes that make up the GI tract, respiratory tract, genitourinary tract, and the lungs, generally known as the MALT or mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. And the largest portion of this is the GALT or gut-associated lymphoid tissue, where it is said greater than 75 of all mature immune cells reside and function. So it's really important to make sure that the lining of certain organs are working properly. Otherwise, it could lead to problems with our immune system.
So,
And
so just to clarify, you're talking about the gut, parang the stomach area, and until the throat.
basically the mucous membranes, which are like epithelial tissue that lines your gut, as well as the respiratory tract, genitourinary tract, as well as the lungs.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So secondly is creating a commensal-friendly environment. And the support mechanism is closely related with barrier function, as friendly commensal organisms reside almost exclusively in the skin or mucosal membranes. So an environment that allows for the proper number and type of commensal organisms and is unfriendly to most harmful organisms is important for overall health and vital for proper immune function. Because so much of the immune system resides in the GI tract, the training and maturation of immune system cells is dependent on the interaction with commensal organisms within the gut microbiota. So it's really important to pay attention to the natural flora that inhabit our gastrointestinal tract. It's really important because some of these cells actually produce antibodies or antimicrobial substances that fight off harmful organisms. Feel free to butt in if you have any questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so just wanted to understand that. So this
Yeah.
is the gut na,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you were
exactly.
saying you have to eat a lot of fermented foods, diba?
Yeah, that one, and also probiotics and something we call prebiotics, which are actually substances that feed the good bacteria in our intestinal tract. And just to let you know that the normal flora is also found not only in your gut but also in your skin and other parts of the body.
Okay.
Wow.
So maintaining appropriate hygiene practices. So in the historic battle between human health and infectious diseases stand the appropriate role of personal and community hygiene practices. Changes in personal hygiene practices, water and sewage facilities, quarantine of infectious individuals, and similar practices have saved countless lives. Where these practices are less common throughout developing nations, infectious diseases are still common and devastating. So sanitation has a big role in also in our improving our immune system. So those in third world countries are more prone to develop infectious diseases because of the lack of sanitation, basically. Then it's also important to avoid antigens and allergens, especially during adulthood. So this advice appears basic, but it is fundamentally associated with the phenomenon of immune system aging, known as immunosenescence. So basically, our immune system ages as well. And as we age, our immune system appears to be less able to adapt new strategies when encountering new antigens, and it appears to be more vulnerable to immune-related disorders. The elderly seem to be especially vulnerable to seasonal infectious agents, chronic inflammatory diseases, and of course, malignantly transformed cells not removed by the immune system before multiplying. So as part of aging, our immune system health begin to decline as well. So that's the gist of this slide.
And what's the age that it deteriorates?
Yeah, well, everybody ages differently. So some people have premature aging, and accompanying that is a decline in their immune system health. So if you want to health well, like to age well and have a healthy immune system, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to your diet and lifestyle.
Doc, so what fast forwards that decline in aging? I mean, when in your immune system.
Well, there are different things that could decline. For instance, the number of the production of your cells could begin to decline because there's also a limit in the stem cells in our body. So if those begin to decline, then our immune system also declines.
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Yeah. And also, like for instance, if you take antibiotics, it would actually wipe out the good bacteria in your gut. And when you wipe that out, there's less production of B vitamins and antimicrobial substances, which are also important for immune system health. And by the way, certain medications, such as the one that suppress acid formation, could also affect your immune system. Because when you have a decline in stomach acid, it's easier to get affected by microbes that you get through the food that you eat.
Okay.
So building micronutrient and antioxidant reserve. One of the hallmarks of modern nutrition is the connection between specific nutrient deficiencies and disease susceptibility. So no one questions that when we are truly deficient in one or more vitamin or mineral, we have reduced capacity to fight off various diseases. However, the notion that there is a continuum between micronutrient deficiency on one end and optimal immune enhancing levels of micronutrient intake on the other is often underappreciated. So a lot of these micronutrients, for instance, zinc is a very common deficiency, and zinc is involved in like 300 metabolic processes in the body. It's important for immune system health, for metabolic health, for blood sugar health, even hormonal health. So just a missing nutrient could affect a lot of processes in the body.
So to fight COVID, we need a lot of zinc. What's the recommended dose?
Yeah, zinc is a very important nutrient that could actually affect the replication of the COVID-19 or the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And usually I would recommend like 40 to 50 milligrams of elemental zinc, but I'm going to discuss those specifics later.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's important to maintain and build cellular or mitochondrial energy. When the immune system is under attack, every bit of the metabolic reserve available for energy can be quickly depleted, leaving the patient exhausted and even lethargic, which is part of the classic illness syndrome. So notice people who are, let's say, who have any type of sickness, including the flu, they're really tired and exhausted. So when our cellular energy reserves are depleted due to poor diet, stress, strenuous exercise, short sleep duration, or to perform other critical metabolic functions such as detoxification, our immune system can be easily overwhelmed. In addition, recent studies have shown mitochondria are critical to the function of both the innate and adaptive immune system, participating in antiviral signaling and antibacterial activities. So when we think about, let's say, the white blood cells, which is part of our immune system, for it to be active, it needs energy. And most people don't think that way. Where do these white blood cells get their energy from? So it comes from basically our diet. And if it's not from the diet, you could actually get it from in the form of supplements, like for instance, CoQ10 or things like L-carnitine could help improve your energy or the ATP levels, which would ultimately affect your white blood cell activity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That's clear, no? Okay. So maintaining adequate detoxification capacity. So an important area of metabolic reserve that directly affects immune or impacts immune function is liver function, and more specifically, detoxification capacity. When liver function and detoxification capacity are functioning appropriately, removing endogenous and exogenous toxins are significant burden is removed from internal immune and GI functions. However, slow or incomplete detoxification allows for cell damage and GI irritation that exacerbate immune system inflammatory responses, deplete nutrient resources, and create opportunities for additional immune-related vulnerabilities. So it's important that the detoxification function is working optimally. Otherwise, our immune system has to deal with a lot more things rather than just focus on, let's say, getting rid of toxins, tumors, or infectious agents.
And how would you know that, Doc?
If you have a sluggish detoxification capacity, sometimes it may show up through your blood tests, or people who have, let's say, problems with constipation, people who have headaches or skin conditions. These are people who usually have problems with detoxification. But if you want specific tests for detoxification, there are functional tests actually available. It could be done by functional labs, but unfortunately, they're not available in the Philippines as of yet. So we would still have to send the specimen samples to the US to see how this detoxification capacity of your liver, for instance, is functioning.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So stress and cortisol also induce immune suppression. Stress in general and cortisol specifically is a powerful inhibitor of the innate immune response. Cortisol is known as one of the most potent endogenous anti-inflammatory molecules, whereas inflammatory mediators such as IL-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha are strong triggers of the HPA axis. So when you're under a lot of stress, it would actually suppress your immune system. So it's important to be able to deal with stress productively. Otherwise, the stress hormone cortisol could actually wreak havoc to our immune system.
Okay.
Then there's reducing chronic inflammatory triggers or mediators. So inflammation is one of the core functions of the innate immune system and is vital to a healthy immune response. However, inappropriate or chronic inflammatory signaling is a hallmark of almost every chronic disease. And the appropriate modulation of inflammation is critical for a healthy immune system. So you guys heard of like cytokine storms. Basically, it's how our body has an exaggerate immune response to infections. And that's basically one of the underlying mechanisms in SARS-CoV-2. basically having a cytokine storm, which causes further damage to our bodies. And that's where immunomodulators such as vitamin D and melatonin comes in. So those modulate or balance your immune system. Basically, an immune modulator balances your immune system. If it's too active, it lowers it. If it's too low, it raises it.
Okay.
So using immune modulating agents to create balance and strengthen immune function. So while the foundation of immune support is building metabolic reserve, there are a number of ways to specifically enhance immune functions using agents generally referred to as immune modulators. These agents vary in their mechanisms, but are mostly derived from plants or fungi. Some of these agents are antimicrobial, antiviral, antifungal, or antiparasitics, while other agents act to stimulate or modulate immune cell function.
Okay. Doc, my question.
Yeah.
See, Andrew, is there any way to check our level of immunity? How can we know that our immune system is good? Are there quantitative markers for early detection and monitoring?
Yeah, I'll be getting to that. However, a simple way to check if your immune system is working properly is through the CBC or complete blood count. So with a white blood cell, you could tell qualitatively or quantitatively through the CBC if you have enough white blood cells, which is also important for immune system. And there's another way to check how your white blood cells are functioning, and that's through the live blood cell microscopy. That would see how active our white blood cells are. If it's sluggish, then that could lead to problems. But there are other tests that you could use to check for immunity. Let me see if I could get to that. I think I could discuss those a little bit later.
Okay. All right, Doc.
Okay. So factors affecting immunity. So chronic sleep deprivation. So ideally, you need to have regular sleep, 7 to 9 hours, ideally, because during the sleep, the process of sleep, we actually produce a hormone called melatonin. It's a hormone produced by your pineal gland, and it's actually not only important for sleep, but it's also an antioxidant as well as an immune modulator. So people who are not having enough sleep could have lowered immune systems. Second is a lack of physical exercise. So to correct this, we need regular and varied physical exercise, ideally 30 minutes each day. And that's a combination of aerobic exercise and weight training. And it also says that regular sex is also associated with higher immunoglobulin A levels in the saliva. That's also part of the immune system.
Yun. Oh.
Then, of course, poor diet also impairs the immune system. So to be able to improve your immune system, you need to have adequate but not excessive energy supply. And there should be optimal intake of micronutrients, particularly vitamins A, D, B6, zinc, and selenium, and optimal intake of antioxidants such as vitamin C. Then there's chronic stress that also suppresses the immune system. And what you do is improve that through several ways, such as deep breathing exercises, sufficient rest and relaxation, meditation, relaxing music. Some people do exercise as a form of stress management. And some people do online shopping nowadays.
Doc, may question lang.
Yeah.
We always hear immunocompromised people. What does it exactly mean?
Those people have lowered immune system. They're more prone to get infections. So these are people who actually are sick all the time, and basically they have lowered immune systems. So that's immunocompromised. But you also see this in people who have who are taking certain medications, like for instance steroids that could actually make a person immunocompromised. People who are taking chemotherapeutic drugs, that could also make a person immunocompromised, because
How
some of these
about
drugs could
how
also
about
destroy
hypertensive drugs,
some of.
doc, for hypertension?
Yeah, some drugs could actually deplete the body of certain nutrients, and that's how it could compromise the immune
Mm.
system. Yeah, a lot of drugs deplete the body of coenzyme Q10. That's why a lot of people may experience fatigue, and those others could also uh, have a depletion of the B vitamins, particular B12 and folic acid. So that could also affect your energy level as well as immune system health. Yeah, most drugs actually deplete the body of certain nutrients. Then another immunity impairing factor includes lack of social contacts. So nowadays it's quite common to have lack of social contacts because of the lockdown. Thank God for the internet. At least we're still able to connect with family as well as friends. Frequent negative talk and taking things too seriously could also affect your immune system. So general fun and humor, frequent laughing. You guys have heard of Patch Adams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you laugh a lot, that actually raises your natural opioids or endorphins and enkephalins. So the substances could actually help improve your immune system. So it's
Ayun.
important to laugh even at this time.
Laughter is the best
Yeah,
medicine.
yeah.
Okay.
Travel, flying, and changes of environment could also affect your immune system. So you want to boost immunity before a flight by taking certain nutrients such as glutathione, vitamin C, zinc, of course, efficient hydration, take probiotics, and to recover from jet lag, take some
Mel-
melatonin.
Melatonin.
Yeah, alcohol again has an immune suppressive effect, so it's important to reduce alcohol consumption. Avoid binge drinking, and if you decide to drink, try to drink more of red wine, which is rich in polyphenols, including resveratrol, which has anti-aging properties. Then obesity could also suppress the immune system. So what you do is reduce abdominal obesity with an anti-inflammatory diet and exercise, and make sure you get adequate sleep and stress management. Smoking, we don't need to about that. And then there's dehydration, that could also suppress the immune system. So what you do is make sure that you get adequate hydration, and you could actually compute for that. Like if you basically body weight in pounds, and half of that in ounces would be your optimal water intake. So if you weigh like 150 pounds, drink at least 75 ounces or more than 2 liters of water per day.
Got that.
Okay, go to any questions regarding those?
No, it's okay. Yeah.
No, no.
I think it's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So,
COVID-19.
so we discussed COVID-19, which is a severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2. It's the cause of coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID 2019. So basically, this disease has spread pandemically around the world under severe stress. It's characterized by a broad spectrum of clinical syndromes. So some people are asymptomatic, and some have mild influenza-like symptoms, and others have severe pneumonia and acute respiratory syndromes. It is common to observe the ability of a single virus to cause widely differing pathological manifestations in humans. This is often due to multiple contributing factors, including number one, size of the viral inoculum. Then second, the genetic background of the patient. Third, the presence of concomitant pathological conditions. An established adaptive immunity towards closely related viruses or other microbes can reduce susceptibility or enhance disease severity. Basically, this slide says that not everybody would get sick from the virus. It depends on different factors. and I believe that well, it's in my my Facebook page actually. But if you get a small size of the virus, like a small size of the viral inoculum, you don't need to get sick. But if your immune system is slow, um, even a small size of the inoculum would actually cause illness. So that's why some authorities recommend the use of masks, because if you, let's say, are exposed to someone who's coughing, you won't be able to get a lot more of the you don't get a lot of viral load. uh, that way the mask could actually help, but it's important to use the proper mask, because some masks are actually useless.
So, Doc,
So people, yeah.
I have a stupid question. Sorry. For people who are asymptomatic, does that mean that they're actually that their immune system is in place, that it's actually working well? If
Yeah,
they
for
don't
those
see,
who are not, yeah, for those who are not exhibiting symptoms but are supposed to be infected, it means that their body is able to fight off the infection. That's why they're not exhibiting symptoms. For those who have poor immune systems, usually they're the ones who begin to exhibit symptoms. But let's say a person has mild symptoms, that means and usually those with mild to moderate symptoms are able to recover from the illness because of a healthier immune system compared with those who have severe symptoms. Yeah, so basically, there's a lot of factors that could actually contribute to illness. It's not just the infectious agent, but also the viral load or the size of the viral inoculum and the genetic background of the patient. Basically, how healthy the person is. And here, the third one says the presence of concomitant pathological conditions. So for those with comorbidities, they're the ones who are more prone to get sick from the virus.
What does that exactly mean, Doc? Particular diseases, ganon?
Yeah, like to say, we have different susceptibilities. So if a person has a healthy immune system and they're exposed to a small load of the virus, then they don't get sick. But let's say you get a big load of the virus, like a high viral load, um, you may develop an infection if your immune system gets overwhelmed. Let's say you're not getting enough sleep, you're under a lot of stress, then perhaps you may exhibit symptoms. So it's not like everybody would get sick, because if everybody did, then you would see higher numbers in the daily reports.
Okay, my question, Doc. Um, I heard from a few people that your blood type can also factor in how heavy hit some people are compared to others. Is there any truth in this?
Well, because the the COVID-19, well, the SARS-CoV-2 virus is still relatively new. There's still a lot of like unverified information, but I already heard of that theory that certain people with certain blood types are more able to resist the infection. I believe it's like type A and yeah, type A primarily, A and O, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about to be validated pala.
Yeah, there's still a lot of things up in the air. Uh, and that's because, again, this virus is relatively new and we're still discovering a lot of things about it. So SARS-CoV-2 belongs to Coronaviridae, a family of large RNA viruses infecting many animal species. So 6 other coronaviruses are known to infect humans. 4 of them are endemically transmitted and cause the common cold, while SARS-CoV-2 and SARS-CoV-1 and MERS-CoV have caused limited epidemics of severe pneumonia. All of them trigger antibody and T cell responses in infected patients. However, antibody levels tend to wane faster than T cells. So they tend to drop faster compared to your T cells, T memory cells. So SARS-CoV specific antibodies drop below the detection limit within 2 to 3 years, whereas SARS-CoV specific memory T cells have been detected 11 years after infection. And that's why some people are more resistant to SARS-CoV-2 because of this T cells, which is not talked about that much compared to your antibodies.
So, what does it mean, Doc? The T cells. How
Yeah,
can
the T
I?
cells is part of your cell-mediated immunity. So when you have an infection, basically your T cells get activated. So once you get another infection, your body would recognize it like more quickly. So compared to antibodies, it doesn't drop it doesn't drop faster. Um, like I mentioned here, antibodies to certain viruses wane within 2 to 3 years. So by the second or third year, sometimes you can't detect it in the blood. But when you check for the T memory cells, you still have this. Component of your immune system working against that specific virus.
Okay. Doc, you mentioned mask kanina.
Yeah.
May related question si Robbie. There are a lot of people selling masks out there, some for fashion. What materials must we look for to make sure the mask is good and filters the virus? How many layers should be? What fabric must it have?
Yeah, I'm not an expert in mask. However, the cloth masks are useless because the viral size is actually smaller than the pores of this cloth mask. So if you're gonna wear a cloth mask, ideally you should wear it over a surgical mask for double protection. And then some of these surgical masks may not be as effective. In fact, the boxes actually warn you that they're not effective against certain viruses. And this masks are actually used by the wearer to protect others, basically, and it doesn't really protect themselves. But again, when you think about viral load, let's say you're around someone who's coughing, it's better to have a mask on because you won't get as much viral load if you're wearing a mask compared to when you're not wearing one. So the most effective
Doc,
one
so
would
how
be
about
the most effective one would be the N95, but a lot of people are having trouble breathing with this N95s, with this N95 mask. But some people are able to tolerate it. A tip I give some of my clients who are wearing cloth masks is to put like essential oils because some of these essential oils have antiviral
micro?
properties. So you could put it over your mask as an added protection.
Which oil in particular?
There are different oils with antimicrobial properties. For instance, thyme, lemon, frankincense, peppermint. Um,
Correct.
Yeah, these are just some of the oils that have antimicrobial properties. There's actually also oil of oregano, but that one could sting. So I'm I just want to give a warning for those people who apply essential oils on their mask. Some of them could burn if they're applied like without
Much.
any what do you call this, carrier oil.
Doc,
Okay.
how about the masks with the vents or the like those exhaust fans?
Yeah, there's still some controversy regarding those vents, but I haven't read much about it yet.
Okay. May follow-up question. Citronella, kasama ba yan? Can it kill virus?
Citronella, uh, well, they're used primarily against mosquitoes that carry the dengue virus. Um, it may help, I believe. Um, yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's continue.
Yeah. So hold on a second. So these are some of the tests that um, yeah, that could be run to see how a person's immune system is functioning. Like I mentioned earlier, CBC, a complete blood count, could show leukopenia or low white blood cells in a person who's possibly infected with SARS-CoV-2. Complete metabolic panel, sometimes they're ALT or AST, those are liver function tests, could be elevated. Procalcitonin may be low or normal. Then other tests include a CRP, which may be elevated. That's an inflammatory marker. D-dimer, LDH, PTINR, ferritin, those could all be elevated. Creatinine kinase. So a lot of tests could be run to determine if there's an infection going on or if a person's immune system is sluggish.
Okay.
There's another one. Have you heard of C3 complement? C3 complement 3?
Yeah, that's
It's
yeah.
Well, it's an immune system test to see if your body is capable of battling bacteria and viral infections. Because you mentioned about the FRCRP and the D dimer. The D dimer
Yeah.
naman is for blood clot detection, no, doc?
Mm-hmm.
Why
Yeah,
is
these
that
are
important?
basically
What?
yeah
Sorry, doc.
one of the ways that the SARS-CoV um how well causes damage to the body is through the clotting mechanism.
Mm.
So that's why it's important to check on those things as well.
We have a question on what supplement to take. You'll discuss that, right, Doc?
Yeah, I'm going to discuss this quickly. These are
Okay.
some of the immune boosting berries and fruits before we go to some of the prescription meds that are being used. So pomegranate, bilberry, and cranberry juice have polyphenols, which have anti-inflammatory properties. Cherries also reduce CRP and interleukin 6, so it's an anti-inflammatory too, often used in cases of arthritis. Elderberries, it's commonly used for the common cold because of its antiviral effects. It also increases cytokine tumor necrosis factor alpha. Elderberries also are rich in zinc, just FYI. And then acai, which is rich in anthocyanins, also anti-inflammatory.
Doc, lahat yan imported, no? Yung all those
Um, almost, yes.
almost, no?
Yeah. Then other immune system boosting plants, these ones are available locally, include turmeric, which is also anti-inflammatory. Then there's ginger, which decreases oxidative stress. By the way, this virus creates damage through excessive oxidative stress. So that's why it's important to take your antioxidants. Ginger, and there's something that is part of Filipino folk tradition. That's the use of salabat.
So, Doc, yung oximeter, that's really a helpful marker ba for COVID?
Well, the oximeter just tells your oxygenation, your blood oxygenation. So if that reaches a certain level, that means you're not getting enough oxygen in your blood.
Okay.
Yeah. Immune system boosting medicinal plants include green tea, such as EGCG. EGCG, by the way, is a zinc ionophore, similar to the popular medication that we'll discuss later, called hydroxychloroquine. So this EGCG facilitates the entry of zinc into the cells where it does its job. And of course, green tea also has anti-inflammatory properties. Cacao also reduces CRP, so it's an anti-inflammatory too. Garlic, ginseng, and noto ginseng also are immune system boosting medicinal plants. Echinacea, this is popularly used more in the Western Hemisphere, so it's usually used for the common cold. Then there's astragalus, which is a natural antibiotic, also a natural anti-inflammatory and antioxidants. Immune boosting fats include extra virgin olive oil, reduces C-reactive protein and interleukin-6. Omega-3 fatty acids also have anti-inflammatory properties. Then there's extra virgin olive oil, which is rich in polyphenols. So all these are good in boosting your immune system.
Okay.
And of course, vitamin C. Most people think that it's just an antioxidant, but it also has a lot of other properties. Normally, the RDA is only 75 milligrams per day in women and 90 or 100 milligrams per day in men. So that's not enough for it to work as an antiviral. You need to take really high doses, as much as 3 to 10 grams per day orally, and up to 10 to 50 grams per day intravenously. So before you do like really high doses of vitamin C, we also do testing. We have to make sure that your kidney function test is working, your kidney function is working properly, and that you don't have any G6PD deficiency.
Doc, what are G6PD deficiencies?
Yeah, this is something that occurs in some people. These people don't react well to high doses of certain. They don't react well to high doses of antioxidants.
Okay. All right. Immune boosting.
So other immune boosting dietary supplements, there's vitamin B1, magnesium, and creatine. Vitamin B3, so there's a mechanism of action. CoQ10, by improving energy, helps your white blood cells and macrophages, natural killer cells, to become more active. And other immune system dietary supplements include L-lysine. We use this primarily for herpes simplex virus infection. And also there's alpha lipoic acid, glutathione, and acetylcysteine. Glutathione is the most abundant endogenous antioxidant in the body, by the way. Then, of course, there's probiotics. Probiotics, they help in the production of antimicrobial substances. So that's why it's really important to take probiotics after a course of antibiotics. So then there's finally vitamin D. Vitamin D normally is produced through sun exposure. When you have enough vitamin D, you actually produce CAMPs. These are cathelicidin antimicrobial peptides. So if your levels are low, you don't produce enough of this antimicrobial peptides, making you more prone to infections. Vitamin D sources include sunlight, dietary supplements, fatty fish, and cod liver oil. Ideally, you should have optimal numbers. A lot of people are deficient in it because of, again, not enough sun exposure, and also the use of, sunblocks. So they found out in studies done on COVID-19 that those who have really low levels of vitamin D are the ones who really get severe infections. Vitamin D, by the way, is an immune modulator. Aside from being a vitamin, it's also a pro-hormone.
So
So
kailangan
this,
nasa sun palagi.
pardon me, sorry.
So you need to be in the sun to go out of the sun.
Yeah,
Especially now
ideally.
we're all at home, di ba?
Yeah, you could get some exposure, that'd be great. And this is a recent study done in Israel. Vitamin D helps the body fight coronavirus. This is just a recent study that came out of Israel. Then, of course, there's zinc. Zinc is mineral that prevents viral replication and translation. So this is the key nutrient that's missing in a lot of the studies that are being conducted against COVID-19, because there are a lot of studies done in hospitals and as well as clinics, but they only involve the use of medications, and they're not incorporating zinc, and that's the most important component of this protocol. As it says here, zinc is required for the function of more than 300 enzymes and more than 1,000 transcription factors. It acts in enzymatic reaction as a catalyst to accelerate the action of all these. And like I said, so these are among the functions of zinc. So it boosts immune defenses, breaks down and metabolizes proteins. It's also important for a healthy prostate. It's also important for your blood sugar. It enhances the biochemical actions of vitamin D, so they have synergistic properties. It's an essential component of hormones, essential for cell division and replication of both DNA and RNA. It has anti-inflammatory properties, helps with the absorption of vitamin A, and more. So many benefits from the use of zinc. And this is quite a very common nutritional deficiency. We're not getting enough of it anymore. These are the top 10 food sources of zinc: fresh oysters, ginger root, and so on and so forth.
Doc, is there a preventive dose of zinc ba that you could take to defend against COVID-19?
Yeah, the protocol requires a 40 to 50 milligrams of elemental zinc. You could find that in 200 milligrams of zinc picolinate, as well as zinc sulfate, 200 milligrams of either zinc salt.
And you can buy that in Mercury, or where do you buy that?
Yeah, those are available probably at Mercury and some health food stores. And some compounding pharmacies also carry zinc.
Okay.
Doc, sorry, is there a difference between vitamin D and vitamin D3?
When I talk about vitamin D, it's primarily D3 form that I'm referring to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So quercetin is a bioflavonoid. It's also an antihistamine and antioxidant, as well as an anti-inflammatory. This is the natural alternative to the medication called hydroxychloroquine. What it does is that it works as a zinc ionophore. You can see it here. It was demonstrated to be a zinc ionophore back in 2014. So for those who are wary of taking drugs or do not have access to the medication HCQ, they could actually take quercetin. It does work as a zinc ionophore, meaning that facilitates the entry of zinc into the cells, which interferes with viral replication and transcription.
And what's the preventive dose for this?
The dose I recommend is 500 milligrams twice a day on the quercetin.
After and before eating, or before eating siguro, no?
With or without meals is okay with the quercetin.
Okay.
How about food sources of quercetin, Doc?
Yeah, food sources include like red apples and onions, ginger, and on my Facebook page, you could actually see the other sources of quercetin. I wasn't able to include those here. Medicinal fungus. These are found to contain several substances that are likely to become more and more relevant in the treatment of illnesses and the development of new medicines. The compounds actually kill bacteria and viruses. They also possess immunoregulatory properties. Um, some of these medicinal mushrooms include maitake, shiitake, cordyceps mushrooms. So other substances that are important for the immune system include collagen. So it's not only good for the skin, but also or connective tissue, but it's also important for immune system health. There's licorice, lactoferrin, and L-glutamine. And just to show you here in this diagram, so people who have viral infections may have deficiencies in any of these nutrients. So I was able to show you all these nutrients earlier, but in summary, they would include vitamin A, D, C, amino acids such as cysteine. Then there's glutathione, minerals such as selenium, copper, and zinc, and other vitamins like vitamin B9 and E, and nutrients such as CoQ10. So all these could actually affect how our body fights against viral infections. The mechanism of action is actually underneath each
So, Doc,
of those.
may related question, or is that the last slide, no ba? You want to? May related question lang. Let's get this question. From the presentation, I see a lot of supplements that we can take to boost the immune system, but realistically, an average person like us won't be able to consume. What are the top 5? And then comment on hydroxychloroquine and zinc as a cure. What makes the combination effective?
Yeah. The top 5 supplements that I would recommend as a preventive as well as for treatment, at least for mild or moderate cases, include vitamin C. You have to take optimal dose for it to work as an antiviral. Like I mentioned earlier, 3 to 10 grams orally or 10 to 50 grams intravenously. Then there's vitamin D3 at 5,000 units per day after meals. For those who have really low numbers, they may take 10,000 units of vitamin D per day. But if you take really high doses of D, you have to take it with vitamin K. You do this because when you take a lot of vitamin D, you absorb a lot of calcium. And this calcium would go into soft tissues if there's not enough vitamin K. So the vitamin K guides the calcium to go where it's needed, and that's the bones primarily. Another one would be zinc. Zinc, at least 200 milligrams of zinc picolinate or sulfate. So zinc is basically the mineral that has antiviral properties. It actually prevents the replication and transcription of viruses within the cell. The next one would be quercetin, which is the natural zinc ionophore. So it facilitates the entry of zinc into the cell where it actually does its job.
Okay. All right. Doc, may mga question pa. Parang nababa lang yung camera mo, Doc. Pakiakit lang.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see you guys.
Baliktad. Pakibaba. Yan. Okay. How about cannabis oil, CBD oil, to prevent infection?
Good question. I don't have much information on CBD, but I know that it's an anti-inflammatory. And we have cannabinoid receptors in the body that modulates our immune system too. So there's a role for CBD in immune system health. But there's a lot of information, but as far as the legality or of CBD in certain countries, it's still up in the air. So wala pang parang legislation regarding certain substances like CBD.
Okay. My question, Christian Valdez, mask with vents. Is it true that although it can prevent the virus to penetrate the mask,
Oh,
and kanino ba yan? Okay. If the user is infected already, the virus can escape through the vent. Tama ba yan, Doc?
um, I'm sorry, can you say that again? Hello? Hello?
Sorry. Mask with vent. Is it true that although it can prevent the virus to penetrate the mask and infect the user, if the user is infected already, the virus can escape through the vent?
Oh, can you give me a minute? I need to really take this call.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, ikaw naman dito.
Wala ako alam dyan. But, you know what I noticed, Anton? Parang lahat ata nung napag-usapan natin is about, boosting the immune system and then getting yourself in, getting yourself healthy, with the proper wellness. Gut health is very important. I think
Oo nga.
yung sinabi niya about probiotics and prebiotics, we should really have a steady source of that, especially now, no? One thing that I want to ask si Dr. J-Lo is actually how about those supplements that are meant to promote a healthy body pH? Kasi I think what we noticed is for patients who are infected with some or show some symptoms of COVID, they're asked to eat alkaline-rich foods, diba? That's what you told me the other day. So ano kaya yung ano yan? I think we should ask that question also. And then he said, no, I think he also mentioned about nutrition, boosting the immune system with nutrition, supplements, sleep, exercise, sunlight, and stress reduction. And I think, and he also said that I think in one of his Facebook posts that we should, or at least the government should rethink the way they're actually, is it testing the testing for the virus? Because I think it should be more like early monitoring and of the viral infection by way of the blood testing parameters that he mentioned earlier, like the D dimer or the FRCRP, and then the C3 complement. So those are the things. So because clinical studies state that with blood clotting, for COVID patients, I think that's really it shows that people with COVID show blood clotting. Doc, I took your show.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to really take that call. May
Okay.
No
sakit.
problem.
No problem.
Sorry.
Let's
Take it away.
complete lang muna yung mask with vent. Is it true that although it can prevent the virus to penetrate the mask and infect the user, if the user is infected already, the virus can escape through the vent? Is that true?
I would think so.
Okay. Kasi
Yeah.
maliit lang. Next, is eating dark chocolate 70% and up good for boosting the immune system?
Yes, it could help improve the immune system. Yeah.
Pero wala siya sa list mo, Doc, no? So, ibig sabihin...
That's cacao. So that's basically raw chocolate.
Okay. And then, Doc, maybe you can comment. So there's this document circling around the internet, no? Parang ito yung advice from inside isolation hospitals we can do at home. Parang vitamin C, E, egg, and then yung note that page, parang more alkaline foods. ito yung mga kinakain. So maybe can you comment on alkalinity or pH level of the body? Is that
Yeah,
very
actually, I'll be talking about that in a bit when I explain
okay.
about HCQ.
All right.
Yeah. So can I proceed with that?
Yes,
Yes,
let's
please,
hear.
Doc. Sorry.
Yeah. So with HCQ, so this is how it works. So it's a very weak base. So before I explain how it works on COVID, this is how it works on basically on malaria. So Plasmodium falciparum and other species of malaria have this what we call lysosome, which is like the digestive system of the that protozoa. So what HCQ does in malaria is that it enters into this lysosome where it causes decreased acidity. So when you have decreased acidity, that would make your this basically this organism starve to death. So that's basically how it works in malaria. So so this is our normal cell. We have the nucleus and other what we call um, microorganelles, or yeah, microorganelles, and that includes like lysozymes, Golgi apparatus, as well as the endoplasmic reticulum. We also have this cell receptors. So this receptors is called ACE2, or angiotensin converting enzyme 2. This is actually where the coronavirus attaches. So we have the spike proteins on the surface of this coronavirus. What it does is that it attaches to this ACE2 receptors, where it actually cleaves. So one remains on the receptor area, or the ACE2, while the other actually fuses with your cell membrane. You could see this red one here. So
Mhm.
once the fusion happens, this RNA found within the virus actually is transported within or into the cell, where it's acted upon by your enzyme, this RDRP, or RNA dependent RNA polymerase. And when it's acted upon by this enzyme, you actually make viruses. So you produce viruses within the cell. HCQ, what it does is that it basically enters into the cell, where, as a weak base, it makes the environment here less acidic. So not just the cytoplasm, but also the interior of these organelles. It makes them less acidic, meaning more alkaline. So it becomes more alkaline. And when it does that, it actually interferes with this process. Number one, it prevents the fusion of this cell fusion of this virus into the cell membrane. So it affects that. So there is no entry of the mRNA if there's no fusion. You got that? Okay.
Mm.
And then secondly, the acidic environment actually makes your enzyme inactive. So if it's not working, then you don't produce viruses. Okay, so that's the second mechanism. Another way that HCQ works is that it makes the interior of these organelles less acidic too. So when it's less acidic or more alkaline, it would actually interfere in the production of your viruses. So these are like your what do you call this, factories. So inside this organelles are where you produce all these viral parts until they're all assembled in this what we call Golgi apparatus. So it interferes with the assembly of these viruses. Then the most popular mechanism of action of your HCQ is as a zinc ionophore, you could see here. So zinc is positively charged mineral, so it won't get into the cell easily because this is um, well, the charge is neutral, so you don't zinc doesn't get into the cell. So you need something to facilitate the entry of zinc into the cell, and basically that's what HCQ does. Okay, so that's the fourth mechanism. And then finally, there's the also, this is actually the ACE2 receptor. This ACE2 receptor needs to undergo glycation for it to be active. So what HCQ does is that it prevents this final glycation, which is the addition of molecule into the terminal amino acid of this ACE2 enzyme. So basically, the structure of this ACE2 would be different. So the S protein in the virus won't recognize this ACE2. Therefore, there won't be any binding. There won't be any binding there. So that's the mechanism of action of HCQ. It's not just a zinc ionophore, but again, it has a lot of mechanisms of action.
So yeah, so Doc, it's really more of a preventive,
Yeah, basically, you gotta use HCQ early while the virus is still within the cell. Because once it goes out of the cell, like what you see in those people with maybe moderate to severe symptoms, that it won't be useful. And that's why a lot of the studies that they did in hospitals, where it was given late as well as very high doses, it actually failed because they were using it when the viruses have already escaped from the cell. So basically, you gotta use it early during mild and even asymptomatic positive cases. Although there's a study done at Henry Ford Hospital in which they actually use HCQ even in those people with severe symptoms. And it was based on that study, it actually decreased the deaths by up to 50%. But the most important thing is to institute treatment early while the virus is still within the cell. Because basically that's how it acts. It's all within the cell.
Okay. And Doc, this is there's no you cannot buy this over the counter, no. It's administered by doctors.
Yeah, you have to get a prescription from your doctor, but first, your doctor needs to know about this. In some countries in Latin America and Africa, they're available over the counter because malaria is such a common problem there that they just made it available for their population. And in countries like India, I think they're allowing it in their certain communities because again, malaria has been endemic or really well established in those areas. That's why they allowed over-the-counter use.
Okay. All right. Let's proceed.
And by the way, it's been around for 65 years, and it's being used by people who have rheumatoid arthritis as well as lupus. So it has a very good safety profile. There are some there are other concerns about it, like it may cause like heart issues, but it's been around for so long, and cardiovascular problems has never been, well, it may have been mentioned before, but very rare. But this concern about HCQ causing heart problems, I think it's what's the right word for it? But anyway, there are a couple of cardiologists in Texas who found out that HCQ, even combined with this antibiotic azithromycin, didn't cause what we call torsade de pointes, which is actually a cardiovascular rhythm problem.
Okay, Doc.
This just the summary of the mechanisms of action of the HCQ. And I hope I was able to explain this diagram clearly.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, in Manila, I guess hospitals use this here, no?
I'm not sure, but I encountered some doctors who have used it for their clients. But I don't know if it's part of the protocol of hospitals around here. Yeah.
Okay. Doc,
Should it be the protocol, Doc? Should it become the protocol, Doc? Sorry.
Well, ideally, but again, there's just so much controversy regarding this medication. I believe it's been politicized, especially in the U.S. Since the POTUS highlighted the use of this medication.
Yeah. Doc, in your holistic medicine, do you treat COVID patients ba or more of holistic preventive side ka lang?
Yeah, I've encountered some people who had positive PCR, so I recommend the protocol. But again, I educate them and tell them basically what possible side effects are and how you need to take it at a certain dose just to minimize any untoward side effects. And it's also part of my holistic protocol. So I also combined it with antioxidants because, again, if there's viremia already, you need to take antioxidants because the viremia could cause excessive oxidative stress, which would cause cell damage. And this could also lead further into what we call a cytokine storm. So my approach is more holistic rather than just depending or relying on medications.
Sorry, but you have to treat it early, Doc. Ganun ba yan?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to treat it early so it doesn't get worse. Again, if you get it at this stage when the virus is still within the cell, you're gonna get a better prognosis, better results.
All right. Any more question dito?
Sorry, Doc. Just going back to what you diagrammed on the ACE2, you said that the ACE should always be, is it working properly, Doc? Or because I remember I was taking an ACE inhibitor before and you told me to stop for my hypertension. Is that related?
Which one?
Right. You mentioned about the ACE2. Is that an enzyme again? Sorry.
Yeah, it's an enzyme, and
Okay, so
also
for the,
works as a receptor for the SARS-CoV-2 virus.
right. So Doc, if it's a receptor for the SARS-CoV virus, I remember you said that because I was taking an ACE inhibitor for my hypertension, you asked me to stop that just so that I'm not susceptible to picking up the virus. Is that the one that you were talking about before?
Which one?
The ACE2 and my taking of the ACE inhibitor.
Yes, yes.
So, Doc, sorry for purposes of our listeners, can you explain why that is important?
I Yeah, those with comorbidities are more prone to uh, get COVID-19 because of not just uh, the ACE2 enzyme or receptor, but due to other things as well. Um, in general, they have lower immune systems because of, again, um, medication induced by depleting the body of certain nutrients.
Mm, okay.
All right. Wow. This this is a long show, but I guess it's very important. I think Doc already answered all my questions. Um, and what I got, Doc, just to for prevention, no. So you can have preventive dose of zinc and quercetin, tama? At least those two, and
Yeah.
vitamin D, sunlight, and of course vitamin C.
Hmm.
Uh, ikaw dito, ano na ba na tutunan mo?
Yeah, me. I think what I got from the show is that we need to watch out for our gut health, our alkalinity. That we should always take alkaline-rich foods, and if we're able to get supplements that promote the healthy body pH, then we should get those. And of course, stress reduction. And you also mentioned about self care, doc. So self care is very important, especially now, no, just so that
Yeah.
our immune system is strong.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So before we close the discussion, there are no more questions. Although we have a winner, I guess. So we started this show with a call to action to comment in the comment section below. Maybe Dito, you can. So this
Oh,
from
okay. All right. So
Christian.
our winner for the GD40 Fora from TSMC, it's the best in the market because of its hematocrit range, which makes it compatible for different patient types. I need a glucometer for my mom so that she can monitor her blood glucose. Congratulations, Christian Valdez. So you won GD40. Please send us your address so that we can send it to you via Grab.
All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And thank you, Doc Joel. Thank you, Dito. And I guess we've learned a lot on COVID-19, and it's very timely. At least it's direct from Doc Joel, who is a wellness doctor. And that's it. Thank you so much. I do hope those watching in the replay, you learn a lot from this episode.
Thank you very much, Anton. Thanks, everyone.
All
Thanks, Doc.
right. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Congratulations, Christian.